Commander Alex Miller stood tall as the vote ended. The large chamber fell silent. Every alien representative had raised their hand or tentacle. The vote was clear. Humanity was no longer welcome. "The decision is final," said High Counselor Vrax, his 6 eyes narrowing. "Humanity is too dangerous to remain in our peaceful community." Alex's hands tightened into fists. After 50 years of helping these aliens, building trade routes and sharing medicine, they were throwing humans away like trash. "You have 30 days to remove all human ships, colonies, and people from Council space," Vrax continued. "Any humans found after this time will be treated as criminals." Alex wanted to argue, but his orders were clear: observe and report. He turned and walked out of the chamber as alien whispers followed him. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. Alex spent every hour reviewing the Council's complaints. They said humans expanded too quickly. They said human culture was infecting their young. They said humans were too unpredictable. When Alex's ship reached Earth orbit, military vessels were already gathering. The news had traveled faster than his ship. In the White House Situation Room, President Catherine Wright looked tired but determined. Military officers, scientists, and diplomats filled the room. "Commander Miller, please share what you witnessed," she said. Alex described the vote and the Council's demands. The room grew tense with each word. 30 days to abandon colonies that took decades to build, General Rick Summers said, shaking his head. "Millions of people to relocate. It's impossible." "It's not just impossible," said Dr. Laura Bell, the leading xenobiologist. "It's a death sentence for many colonies that depend on specific environments." President Wright stood up. "We will not abandon our people, but we must be smart about this." Admiral John Blackwood stepped forward with a tablet. "Madam President, we've been preparing for something like this. Operation Diaspora is ready." He showed a map of the galaxy with dozens of locations marked in red. "These are unclaimed systems beyond Council space. Harsh worlds, but survivable with our technology." "And our military response?" asked the President. "We can't win a direct war," Admiral Blackwood said honestly. "The Council races outnumber us 20-1. But we can disappear. Make them think we're beaten while we build our strength." The next day, President Wright addressed the United Nations. Her image was broadcast to every human settlement across 27 worlds. "Fellow citizens of Earth and her colonies, yesterday the Galactic Council voted to expel humanity from their midst. They fear our spirit. They fear our creativity. They fear what we might become." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We face a difficult choice. Fight now and risk everything, or retreat, rebuild, and return stronger than before. I have chosen the path of patience and wisdom." Across human space, people watched with fear and anger. The Diaspora Protocol is now active. All colonies will begin evacuation procedures. But know this, we are not running away. We are moving forward, to places where we can grow without their rules and fears. On the colony world New Eden, families packed their belongings. On the mining station Ceres, workers loaded valuable equipment. On research outposts throughout Council space, scientists downloaded their findings and destroyed their labs. 1 week later, Council Representative Zix Tarn arrived at Earth to oversee the withdrawal. His ship was met by empty space stations and automated messages. "Your compliance is noted," he said to the human liaison officer who met him in orbit. The officer, Major Ben Clark, simply nodded. He didn't mention the secret military base being built under Europa's ice. He didn't talk about the new fold drive prototypes that would soon make Council ships look slow and outdated. He didn't reveal that Operation Diaspora had started years ago, preparing for this very day. The exodus had begun, but so had humanity's greatest chapter. Fleet Captain Samantha Carter stood on the bridge of the transport ship New Horizon. Behind her vessel, 500 colony ships moved in perfect formation. Each ship carried 10,000 humans and everything they would need to start over. "Status report," she ordered. "All ships ready, Captain," said Officer Greg Mason. "Course set for the Proxima system." Samantha nodded. Proxima was just the first stop. From there, the fleet would split into smaller groups, each heading to different destinations outside Council space. "Begin jump sequence," she ordered. As the fleet vanished into the darkness of space, Council observation posts recorded the event. The aliens were pleased. The humans were running away, just as expected. On Earth, the remaining government officials met in an underground bunker. Maps showed the locations of secret outposts being established beyond Council territory. "The first wave is away," reported General Lisa Martinez. "Second wave launches tomorrow." President Wright looked at the engineers section of the table. "What about the new drive system?" Peter Garcia, a civilian engineer with messy hair and tired eyes, stood up. "We've made a breakthrough, Madam President. The full drive works." He showed a small device on the table. "This prototype can bend space in ways the Council races haven't discovered. Their ships need stargates for long jumps. Ours won't." The room filled with excited whispers. "How soon until we can install it in our ships?" asked Admiral Blackwood. 6 months for the first military vessels," Peter answered. "Maybe a year for the colony ships. We need to build them in secret, away from Council spies." On the Jupiter moon Europa, Dr. William Foster's research team worked day and night. Their underground lab was hidden beneath 3 miles of ice. "Try it again," William told his assistant. They activated their device. On a screen, they saw a research station on Mars. The signal was traveling instantly, with no delay. "Quantum communication," William said with a smile. "The Council will never be able to listen to our messages or track our ships." The Council races celebrated humanity's departure. They held grand ceremonies and speeches about restoring harmony to the galaxy. But a few alien scientists noticed something odd. The humans were taking strange equipment and unusual resources. They were not acting like a defeated species. One council member, the wise Saylat scholar Morrow, warned the others. "Humans adapt quickly. They turn setbacks into opportunities. We should watch them carefully." But the council ignored these warnings. They were too happy to be rid of the troublesome humans. As the exodus continued, Earth looked more and more empty. Cities were quiet. Spaceports were shut down. But deep underground and underwater, secret factories worked at full speed. They built ships, weapons, and tools that would help humanity survive and grow stronger. In space, far from Council eyes, the first hidden colonies took shape. On harsh, rocky worlds that the Council had ignored, humans built domed cities. In asteroid belts rich with metals, they created mining stations. In empty regions of space, they constructed massive space stations. Captain Samantha Carter's fleet reached their first destination. The world was cold and covered in red dust, nothing like the green Earth they had left behind. "It's not pretty," she told the colonists as they prepared to land. "But it's ours. No Council rules here. No one to tell us to stop building or growing." A young boy looked up at her. "Will we ever go back to our real home?" Samantha knelt down to meet his eyes. "Someday. But when we do, we'll be so strong that no one will ever make us leave again." As the colony ships landed, Council spy satellites passed overhead, recording everything. The aliens watching the feed saw only struggling humans trying to survive on a hostile world. What they couldn't see were the underground bunkers where advanced labs were being set up. They didn't notice the small factory hidden in a canyon where the first full drive engines were being built. The humans were leaving, just as ordered. But they were not giving up. They were preparing. 50 years passed. The Galactic Council rarely spoke of humans anymore. When they did, it was to tell stories about the primitive species that had almost disrupted galactic harmony. But beyond Council space, humanity was far from quiet. On the planet New Terra, Governor Susan Rogers walked through a busy city square. Tall buildings reached toward the sky. Children played in parks under a dome that protected them from the harsh weather outside. "The new hospital wing is finished," said her assistant. "That makes 5 major medical centers just in this city." Susan nodded with pride. What had started as a struggling colony was now home to over 3 million people, and New Terra was just one of 50 thriving human worlds. In orbit above the planet, shipyards stretched for miles. Workers in spacesuits moved around massive vessels under construction. These were not the simple ships humans had used during the Exodus. They were bigger, faster, and much more powerful. In a research lab on the moon of New Terra, Eric Reynolds made the final adjustments to his latest invention. The shield generator was smaller than a coffee cup, but could protect an entire battleship. "Test number 47, he said to his team. They fired a powerful laser at the shield. The energy weapon, which could cut through Council ship armor like paper, couldn't penetrate the shield. "Perfect," Eric said with a smile. "Begin production immediately." Across human space, people no longer called themselves Earthers, Martians, or colonists. They were all citizens of the Terran Commonwealth, a new government formed 20 years after the Exodus. The Commonwealth Senate met in a massive space station called Unity. Representatives from all human worlds gathered there to make decisions for their growing nation. "The Fold Drive network is complete," announced Transportation Minister Alan Davis. "Any Commonwealth ship can now reach any of our worlds in less than a week." This was a huge achievement. Council ships needed months to travel similar distances, and they could only use specific routes through stargates. Defense Minister Victoria Blake stood next. "Our fleet now includes 500 warships and 1,000 support vessels, all equipped with our latest technology." The Senate chamber filled with applause. The humans had built something remarkable in just 50 years. Far away, at the edge of Commonwealth space, a Council trade ship detected something unusual. The captain, a reptilian Drax named Krell, ordered his ship to investigate. "Sensors show a large structure," reported his first officer. "It appears to be a human space station." Krell couldn't believe it. Impossible. This is far beyond their territory during the Exodus. As they moved closer, the station sent a message. "Council vessel, you are approaching Commonwealth space. Please identify yourself." Krell was shocked. The humans were supposed to be struggling on a few harsh worlds. Instead, they had expanded to this distant region and built advanced stations. "Respond and retreat," Krell ordered. "Tell the station we are leaving immediately." As his ship turned around, Krell saw something that made his scales stand on end. A human warship appeared from nowhere, its engines glowing with strange blue energy. It was at least 3 times the size of his vessel and bristling with weapons. "Set course for Council space," he told his navigator. "Maximum speed. We need to report this." But the Council didn't believe Krell's report. They thought he was exaggerating or had encountered pirates using stolen human designs. "Humans are a broken people," said High Counselor Vex, who had replaced Vrax years ago. "They cannot have recovered so quickly." Meanwhile, Commonwealth Intelligence Director Helen Wright, granddaughter of former President Catherine Wright, received a report about the Council ship's appearance. "They've spotted us," she told the Commonwealth President. "Sooner than we expected." President Roy Baker considered this news. "Are we ready?" Helen nodded. "Our military is stronger than anything the Council can gather. Our economy is stable. Our people are united." "Then perhaps it's time," said President Baker. "Time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just surviving. We're thriving." He looked at a map showing Commonwealth territory, which now included over 100 star systems. What had begun as an exile had become the foundation of an empire. "Prepare the diplomatic course," he ordered, "and put the fleet on standby. The silent years are coming to an end." Commonwealth diplomat Nickel Harris stepped onto the alien world of Viridia. The sky was purple, and strange plants swayed in the breeze. The Viridians themselves looked like tall, slender humans with green skin and large eyes. "Welcome to our home," said Chief Elder Zelia. "We have heard much about your people." Nickel bowed respectfully. "Thank you for meeting with us. The Commonwealth seeks friends, not just new territory. The Viridians had never joined the Galactic Council. The Council had decided they were too primitive centuries ago. This was a pattern Nickel had seen many times. The Council rejected species that didn't fit their idea of proper civilization. "The Council ignored us," said Zelia. "But you seek us out as equals. This is good." After 3 days of talks, Nickel and Zelia signed a treaty. The Viridians would gain access to human medical technology. In return, they would share their knowledge of biological sciences, where they were far ahead of humans. This was not the first such alliance. Over the past 5 years, Commonwealth ships had contacted 15 non-Council species. Each one had a similar story: rejected, ignored, or bullied by the Council. On the Commonwealth military station, Sentinel, Admiral Frank Johnson reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "The Arxer have agreed to share their weapons technology," said his aide. "That's the third advanced species to ally with us this year." The Arxer were mysterious beings who lived inside gas giants. They rarely talked to anyone, but they respected strength. When Commonwealth ships had saved an Arxer colony from a supernova, they gained powerful friends. "What about Council movements?" asked the Admiral. "They've increased patrols along their borders. They're getting nervous about the missing ships." 3 Council exploration vessels had vanished in the past month. They weren't destroyed. The Commonwealth had captured them to study their technology and prevent reports from reaching the Council. In his office on Unity Station, Commonwealth Intelligence Director Paul Wilson studied reports from spies inside Council space. "They're finally starting to look for us," he told his team. "But they're looking in the wrong places." The Council believed humans had only managed to establish a few small colonies. They were searching near the original Exodus path, not realizing that humanity had spread in all directions. "They've also started a secret program to develop better weapons," said one of Paul's analysts. "They remember how quickly humans advanced before the expulsion." Paul nodded. Too little, too late. At the Commonwealth Navy shipyard orbiting New Terra, workers attached the final plates to a massive warship. At over 3 miles long, the dreadnought Defiance was the largest vessel humans had ever built. Captain Maria Lopes walked through the ship's main corridor with pride. Every system used technology the Council had never seen. The fold drive could take the ship anywhere in the galaxy in days. The shields could withstand any known weapon. The energy cannons could destroy a small moon. "She's ready, Captain," said the chief engineer. "Just say the word." Maria ran her hand along a wall. "Begin final checks. We launch tomorrow." Far away, on the edge of Commonwealth space, a Council exploration ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The captain, a bird-like avian named Krill, was excited. His mission was to map uncharted space for possible expansion. "Scan the nearby system," he ordered. His science officer gasped. "Captain, I'm detecting thousands of ships and a massive space station. It's a human industrial world." Before Trill could order retreat, his ship was surrounded by Commonwealth patrol vessels. A message came through. "Council ship, power down your engines and prepare to be boarded." Trill had no choice but to surrender. Back on Unity Station, the Commonwealth Leadership Council gathered for an emergency meeting. President Baker looked at each member. "The Council will notice their missing ships soon," he said. "We can no longer stay hidden." Defense Minister Blake nodded. "Our forces are ready. The fleet is at full strength." "Then it's time for a decision," said the President. "Do we reveal ourselves gradually, or do we show the full extent of our power?" After hours of debate, they reached agreement. The Commonwealth would send a diplomat to the Council, along with a small fleet of their most advanced ships. They would demonstrate their strength while offering peace. "Send the message to all Commonwealth worlds," ordered President Baker. "Operation Homecoming begins now." Across human space, citizens received the news with excitement and nervousness. After 50 years of building and preparing, humanity was about to return to the galactic stage, not as supplicants, but as a power to be reckoned with. Fleet Admiral Daniel Morgan stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Defiance. Around his ship, 50 Commonwealth warships moved into position. Each one was more advanced than anything the Council races had built. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said his second-in-command. Daniel nodded. "Begin Operation Homecoming. Jump to Waypoint Alpha." In perfect formation, the fleet disappeared into fold space. They reappeared near an important Council trade route. Within hours, ships from 20 Commonwealth battle groups did the same at different locations throughout Council space. On the Galactic Council headquarters world, Ambassador Julia Bennett waited in a small room. She had arrived in a simple shuttle, claiming to represent the human remnant. The Council had agreed to meet her, mostly out of curiosity. 2 alien guards led her into the Grand Council chamber. It looked just as it had 50 years ago when humanity was expelled. Many of the representatives were children or grandchildren of those who had voted for the expulsion. "The Council recognizes the human representative," said High Counselor Vex, his voice showing boredom. Julia stepped forward. She wore a simple gray uniform with the Commonwealth emblem, a star with Earth at its center. "Honorable Council members," she began, "I bring a message from the Terran Commonwealth." Several Council members laughed quietly. They expected begging or an offer of some minor trade deal. 50 years ago, you expelled humanity from your community," Julia continued. "You thought we would struggle and fade away. Instead, we have built an empire." The laughter stopped. Vex leaned forward. "Your claims are noted, but hardly believable," he said. "Humans left with basic colony ships and limited resources." Julia smiled. Perhaps a demonstration would help. She touched a small device on her wrist. "Admiral Morgan, you may proceed." Throughout Council space, Commonwealth ships appeared near major planets, stargates, and military bases. On 1,000 view screens across the Council worlds, people watched in shock as massive human warships folded into existence. In the Council chamber, the large screen showed these images. The representatives fell silent. "These are just a fraction of our forces," said Julia. "The Commonwealth now controls over 100 star systems. We have alliances with 15 non-Council species. Our technology has advanced well beyond what you possess." High Counselor Vex stood up, his composure breaking. "This is an act of war. Guards, arrest this human." The guards moved toward Julia, but stopped when she spoke again. "I wouldn't recommend that. Commonwealth Special Forces have been on this planet for 3 days. They are currently positioned around your power stations, defense systems, and government buildings. On cue, human soldiers in advanced armor appeared at the chamber's entrances. "We have not come to start a war," Julia said calmly. "We have come to establish a new relationship. The Commonwealth is declaring its independence from Council authority and claiming all human-settled systems as sovereign territory." The Council chamber erupted in angry shouts. One representative, a warrior from the reptilian Drax, called for immediate military action. "Our combined fleets can crush these humans," he shouted. High Counselor Vex wasn't so sure. "How did you build all this?" he asked Julia. "It should have been impossible." "You underestimated human determination," she replied. "When you cast us out, you removed all limits on our growth. No more Council regulations, no more restrictions on our technology. You freed us to become what we are today." Near the Council's largest military base, a small group of Council warships decided to attack the Commonwealth ships. They fired their weapons at the human dreadnought Vigilance. The energy weapons, powerful enough to destroy most ships, couldn't penetrate the Commonwealth shields. The Vigilance responded with a single shot that disabled the Lid Council ship without destroying it. On the Defiance, Admiral Morgan received reports of the skirmish. "Should we respond in force?" asked his tactical officer. Morgan shook his head. "No. One demonstration is enough. Hold positions but do not fire unless fired upon." Back in the Council chamber, representatives watched the brief battle with growing fear. Their best weapons had no effect on the human ships. "We are not here to conquer," Julia told them. "The Commonwealth wants peace, but we will never again allow ourselves to be treated as inferiors or be told where we can and cannot go." She placed a data crystal on the central table. "These are our terms for a new relationship between the Commonwealth and the Council. You have 3 days to consider them." As Julia walked out, the Council representatives began to argue among themselves. Some wanted to fight. Others saw the wisdom in negotiation. All of them now understood one thing. The humans they had dismissed had returned as a galactic power. Outside the chamber, Julia sent a message to President Baker. "First phase complete. The Council has seen our strength." 3 days passed. In council chambers across dozens of worlds, representatives argued about what to do. Some wanted to surrender to human demands. Others refused to show weakness. On the Council capital world, High Counselor Vex met with military leaders. Admiral Kraz of the Drax species pounded his fist on the table. "We cannot let these humans dictate terms to us. We must fight back." Vex looked at the reports again. The Commonwealth had positioned ships near every major Council world. Their technology seemed far ahead of anything the Council possessed. "Our scientists say their full drive gives them a huge advantage," said General Lore of the Avians. "They can appear anywhere, anytime. We have to use stargates for fast travel." Not everyone agreed with the hard approach. An old Sealat named Moro, whose grandfather had warned the Council about humans 50 years ago, spoke up. "We should negotiate. The humans have shown restraint. They could have attacked, but they only demonstrated their power." As they argued, a young council member rushed into the room. "The war faction has acted. Admiral Jorax has gathered 200 ships and is attacking the human fleet near Proxima Station." Vex felt his blood run cold. This was exactly what he feared, a rash action that could start a full-scale war. Near Proxima Station, Admiral Jorax led the largest council fleet assembled in decades. His ships surrounded a smaller group of Commonwealth vessels. "Fire all weapons," he ordered. "Show these humans the true power of the Council." Energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Commonwealth ships, but they hit powerful shields that glowed blue but didn't fail. The human ships didn't even move to avoid the attack. On the Commonwealth dreadnought, Defiance, Admiral Morgan watched calmly. "They've made their choice," he said. "Tactical, disable their engines and weapons. No unnecessary destruction." The Defiance and its escort ships fired precise shots. Blue beams sliced through Council ship shields like they weren't even there. In less than 5 minutes, half of Admiral Jorax's fleet was floating helpless in space, with no power or weapons. Jorax couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Impossible. Keep firing." But more Council ships lost power with each passing minute. Soon, only Jorax's flagship remained operational. A message came through from Admiral Morgan. "This is your only warning. Surrender now." With rage in his heart, Jorax ordered his ship to ram the Defiance. Before they could move, a final shot from the human vessel disabled their engines. Morgan's voice came through again. "Your crew will be rescued and treated well. This conflict is over." The news of the battle spread quickly. Council worlds panicked as they realized their military couldn't protect them. Some planets immediately announced they would accept Commonwealth terms. On Earth, now rebuilt, and once again the heart of human government, President Baker met with his council. Admiral Morgan reports complete victory with minimal casualties on either side, said Defense Minister Blake. "The Council fleet has been neutralized." "And our blockade?" asked Baker. "In place around all major Council worlds." Blake replied, "No military ships can move without our permission." Ambassador Julia Bennett spoke next. "The moderate faction is gaining support. They want to negotiate." Baker nodded. "That's what we hoped for. We don't want to rule them. We just want respect and security." The next day, the Council sent a message requesting peace talks. High Counselor Vex had been removed from power. In his place was Moro, the Expelled who had advocated for negotiation. "We accept that the balance of power has changed," Moro told Ambassador Bennett in their first meeting. "But we hope the Commonwealth remembers mercy." Julia smiled. "We remember everything, including how to forgive." As peace talks began, Commonwealth Special Forces, led by Colonel Olivia Grant, maintained security. Her teams had infiltrated key council facilities during the crisis, ready to act if negotiations failed. "Stand down to Condition Yellow," she told her troops when news of the talks came through. "But stay alert." For 3 weeks, Ambassador Bennett and the new council leadership worked on a peace agreement. The Commonwealth's terms were firm but fair: recognition of human territory, free trade, and joint defense against outside threats. Some council species still resisted, but most saw the wisdom in partnership with humans rather than continued conflict. On the final day of talks, Ambassador Bennett addressed the full council. 50 years ago, you feared what humanity might become. You were right to be afraid, but not because we wished you harm. You should have feared throwing away allies who could have made the galaxy better for everyone." She paused, looking around the chamber. "Today we offer a second chance, not as supplicants, but as equals. Perhaps together we can build something greater than either of us could alone." The vote for peace was not unanimous, but the majority was clear. The war that had barely begun was over. A new era of galactic politics had started. 1 year after the peace agreement, representatives from all known spacefaring species gathered at Unity Station. The massive space station had been expanded to host this historic event. President Ryan Collins, newly elected leader of the Commonwealth, stood at the center of the Grand Assembly Hall. Around him were delegates from the former council races, the Commonwealth worlds, and 15 independent species who had allied with humanity. "Today, we signed the Terran Accords," President Collins announced. "This marks the beginning of a new era of cooperation and mutual respect." The Accords replaced the old Galactic Council system with something new. Instead of one group of species making rules for everyone, all members would have an equal voice. Trade would flow freely between worlds. Technology would be shared to help everyone advance. Moro, who now led the former council races, stepped forward to sign first. "We have learned much from humans," he said, "not just about technology, but about adapting and growing stronger through challenges." After Moro, each representative signed the document. Some did so eagerly, seeing new opportunities. Others signed reluctantly, still wary of human power. When all signatures were complete, President Collins pressed a button. Throughout the galaxy, beacons activated, sending the news to every world. The Terran Accords were now in effect. On Earth, people celebrated in rebuilt cities. The planet had recovered from the dark days after the Exodus. New buildings shone in the sunlight. Parks and forests had been restored. Earth was once again the heart of human civilization, but now as the center of a vast interstellar nation. In orbit, construction teams finished work on a monument. The massive structure contained the names of everyone who had died during the Exodus. At its center was a simple message: we remember, we return, we rebuild. Commonwealth scientists began sharing medical advances with former council worlds. Cures for diseases that had plagued alien species for centuries were freely given. In return, alien scholars brought their knowledge to human universities. On the garden world of Epsilon, once a council colony and now a neutral meeting ground, Admiral John Blackwood's grandson, Admiral Steve Blackwood, met with alien military leaders. Together, they planned joint defense exercises. "My grandfather would never have believed this," Steve told a Drax commander. 50 years ago, your people and mine were enemies." The Drax nodded. Times change. Enemies can become allies when they find common ground. At Unity Station, engineers from 20 species worked together on the greatest project in galactic history. They were building Harmony, the massive station at the galaxy's core. It would serve as the new capital for all member worlds of the Accords. Chief Engineer Linda Garcia, granddaughter of the fold drive inventor Peter Garcia, supervised the installation of the central power core. "My grandfather built engines to help us escape," she told her team. "We're building this place to bring everyone together." 6 months later, Harmony Station was complete. Representatives from all member worlds gathered for the first session of the Galactic Congress. The Grand Chamber could hold thousands of delegates, with translation systems ensuring everyone could understand each other. President Collins stood to deliver the opening address. As he looked around the room, he saw the incredible diversity of life in the galaxy. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and colors watched him with hope and curiosity. 50 years ago, humanity stood alone, he began, cast out and expected to fade away. Today, we stand together with all of you, ready to face whatever challenges the universe brings. He gestured to the viewports that showed the swirling stars of the galaxy's core. "We have all made mistakes. We have all feared what we did not understand. But today, we choose a different path. Not domination, but cooperation. Not fear, but hope. Not isolation, but community." The chamber filled with applause from 1,000 different types of hands, tentacles, and wings. After the ceremony, a young council diplomat approached Admiral Steve Blackwood. She seemed nervous but determined. "Admiral, there's something I've always wanted to ask," she said. "When humanity returned, you had the power to destroy us. Why did you choose peace instead?" The Admiral smiled, remembering something his grandfather had told him long ago. "Because we're human," he said simply. And that's precisely what they feared. The diplomat looked confused. "I don't understand." "The old council feared we would become powerful and use that power as they would have, for conquest and control," Steve explained. "They never understood that our greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to learn from mistakes, both ours and others." He looked out at the stars. "We didn't want revenge. We wanted a galaxy where no species would ever again be cast aside for being different. And now, together, we're building exactly that. Across the galaxy, on thousands of worlds under many different suns, a new age had begun. The empire humanity had built from exile had transformed into something greater, a community of worlds united not by fear, but by hope for a better future."